Hello YouTube and Game of Thrones fans. So the season 6 finale was possibly the best episode of the series so far, and I'm not just saying that because it was the latest episode. This episode had amazing storytelling, a beautiful soundtrack, and solid acting, and I feel fans agree. So in this video I'm going to discuss the finale and the implications of the episode on the plot for season 7. Now before I begin, I want to thank you for following my channel this season. It was a great season, and there will be plenty to talk about as we approach Season 7, which brings me to my next point. In this video I'm going to talk about the general things that we learned from this episode, but there's clearly much more to talk about than what I'm going to discuss in this video. So just as a note, during the break I will be releasing a series of videos discussing various theories and examining each major character's story as we approach Season 7. I don't have a timeline for those videos just yet, but expect them to be released throughout the break. The best way to keep updated on the release of my videos is to subscribe to my channel. If you have not subscribed to my channel yet, click on the button on the screen to subscribe now, and when my videos are published, you will get a notification in your email or in your YouTube app. Or you can follow me on Twitter at the Six Sigma for more updates during the off season, or both. But enough of that, let's talk about the finale. So this episode began with the trials of Loras Tyrell and Cersei Lannister. Now if you're watching this, you already watched the episode, so I won't go into too much detail regarding the plot. In short, after Loras Tyrell confesses his crimes in the Sept, Cersei waits in the Red Keep as her little birds lure Lancel Lannister beneath the Sept. Queen Margaery gets concerned about Cersei's absence and suggests that they leave the Sept. As everyone attempts to leave, a wildfire explosion from underneath the Sept is felt, and it consumes the entire Sept and all the characters inside, as Cersei and Tommen watch from a distance. So first, let's talk about Cersei blowing up the Sept. As I've mentioned in my previous video, this action has been foreshadowed for seasons now, and this season we saw more foreshadowing than ever before, and it finally happened. Now I didn't believe it would happen in the finale because I figured a wildfire explosion would ignite the whole city, but it turns out that Cersei was able to isolate the attack on the Sept. However, this leads me to an important point for Season 7. Throughout the show there have been various references to the Mad King keeping wildfire beneath the entire city. Tyrion mentioned it in Episode 9 when he was talking to Daenerys and said that he had wildfire beneath every major thoroughfare. So clearly there is a possibility that there is more wildfire throughout the city, and this could be Cersei's backup plan if things go south now that she's the queen. Remember her famous phrase was, "I will burn cities to the ground, not just the Sept," and I have a feeling that her reign in Season 7 might end with her attempting to set King's Landing ablaze when Daenerys makes her march on it. If this is something that you want to hear more about, I will certainly be making another video during the break that will discuss Cersei's plotline and how other character stories will be affected by her reign in Season 7. So make sure to keep an eye on my channel during the break. The other thing that I wanted to address from this sequence was the large amount of characters that will no longer be with us in Season 7. Grand Maester Pycelle didn't have a place in Cersei's reign, so his death wasn't a surprise. In the explosion we lost Queen Margaery, Sir Loras, the High Sparrow, Kevan Lannister, and Mace Tyrell. And lastly, King Tommen took his own life in one of the show's most powerful scenes ever in the show. As Cersei had mentioned in the premiere, Tommen's fate was already written, and now with most of these characters out of the way, it really slims down the possible storylines in King's Landing for the following season, which will likely mean that the focus will be on Daenerys and Jon Snow in this upcoming season. The next noteworthy scene is related to Sam. As he arrives at the Citadel, a maester tells Sam that he will have to meet with an archmaester to discuss his maestership. Then Sam is permitted into the library, which contains thousands of books in an amazing array of shelves. Now for those that were paying close attention, we finally saw the astroglobe from the intro of the show. I don't think it's drastically significant, but it was nice to finally see. But here are some questions regarding Sam that will be addressed in Season 7. How will Sam be able to stay with Gilly? He wants her by his side. Will he have to convince the Archmaester? She has taken up a desire to learn as well. Will she request to study with Sam at the Citadel too? Or will Sam have to leave her behind? Also, what is Sam's ultimate purpose at the end of the show? His presence this late in the show means he will likely play a role in the end. Will he aid in the battle versus the White Walkers? And how? Honestly, I feel Sam is going to be highly important next season and expect to see more of him as the show moves forward. For example, what will Sam learn at the Citadel? Could he learn to forge Valyrian steel after studying his family's sword Heartsbane? Will he return to Jon and play a role in the battle versus the White Walkers? Could Heartsbane be Lightbringer? I could talk about these things in depth and explain some major speculations that make sense for the following season, but I'm going to save Sam's story for a more in-depth video during the break before Season 7, so stay tuned. After Sam's scenes, we return to Jon, Melisandre, and Sir Davos in Winterfell. So as I had mentioned in my last recap video, Davos was going to be upset with Mel, and as I had also discussed in my last video, Jon banishes Mel instead of killing her for burning the Princess Shireen. Now obviously this opens the door for Mel to make other alliances and meet up with other characters, and there is a good chance that this isn't the end of Mel's story in relation to Jon. Now that she's heading south, there's always the possibility she meets up with Daenerys. Daenerys has already garnered the support of other Red Priests. Could she get Mel on her side? And if she does, what role will Mel play if Jon and Daenerys cross paths? Furthermore, there's also the possibility that Aria and Mel meet again, which Mel explicitly told Aria during their encounter in Season 3. Either way, Melisandre is too important to not make a return in Season 7, but the question will be, whose side will she be at when that happens? Now before the show transitioned to Daenerys' storyline, we saw a meeting between Lady Olenna, the Sand Snakes, and Lord Varys. They speak of Cersei's actions, and it appears they form an alliance with Lord Varys to fight for Daenerys. Then we see Daenerys and Daario speak about their trip to Westeros. She tells him that he must stay behind, and that she can't take a lover to Westeros. Now for that scene to get that much airtime in a finale, it might actually indicate that it could be something revisited in the future. Daario is persistent. Something tells me he won't be giving up so easily, but that could also spell disaster for Daenerys. Is there a chance that he betrays her for leaving him behind? I'm sure Season 7 will provide us with an answer to that question. And lastly in that scene, Tyrion and Daenerys build a better bond as she names him Hand of the Queen. These two have a unique relationship right now, and it would make even more sense if Tyrion ends up being a secret Targaryen, as I've mentioned in some of my other videos. Next, we have Aria, who apparently made it to Westeros quickly to extract revenge for those on her list. She kills Walder Frey after feeding him a pie with his children inside. As she is now a dangerous and borderline pathological killer, where will she be heading in Season 7? The most likely answer seems to be King's Landing, as most of the people on her list live there, but there is a chance she makes other stops along the way or encounters other characters. For example, the Hound and Melisandre are still out there. Could their paths cross at some point? Her story is definitely one that I'm going to visit during this break. Then Baelish and Sansa provided us with an interesting plot point to look forward to in Season 7. Baelish believes Sansa is his best bet to sit on the Iron Throne with her by his side, and he tells her that all of his actions have been geared towards that one goal. But Sansa doesn't believe that. Now that scene was somewhat telling of Baelish, as he seemed to really expose himself and reveal his true desires, but it obviously wasn't a shared sentiment by Sansa. However, there is something to be said of the scenes that came later in the episode when the houses declared Jon King of the North. At first, Sansa seemed to be okay with the situation, but after making eye contact with Baelish, it seems as if she was regretting her actions. This might possibly indicate some sort of struggle between her and Jon in the future. Earlier in the episode, Jon told her that they need to trust each other and that they couldn't afford internal turmoil. Was this a hint that they might have internal conflict in Season 7? This is a large topic that I also plan to save for another video. Then we saw Bran and Uncle Benjen speak before they part ways. Now, before Bran has his vision of the show's most important revelation ever, they speak briefly about the magic of the wall. Benjen tells Bran that the wall has magical powers that don't allow the dead to pass the wall. This is important because Bran is marked, and if he crosses the wall, there is a chance that he will negate the magic of the wall, allowing the White Walkers to pass into the north. So remember to keep this in mind as Season 7 approaches. And then Bran finally has his major vision that fans have been speculating for years now. Bran climbs the Tower of Joy to see his Aunt Lyanna give his father Ned a baby. That baby was Jon Snow. Now, for those who didn't see this coming, you can take a look at my video regarding Jon Snow's return before the season began. That video talked about the R plus L equals J scenario. It appears as if Rhaegar Targaryen and Lyanna Stark might have actually had Jon out of love for one another. Jon's identity couldn't be revealed by Ned because it threatened his safety his entire life. And for those who are still skeptical it's Rhaegar, an infographic put out by HBO confirmed that Rhaegar was his father to prevent confusion. So this reveal changes everything about Jon's character. He has Targaryen and Stark blood, which means he is extremely important to the story. But there is likely more to this than meets the eye. Now that the viewer knows he's a Targaryen, there is still the question regarding how Jon will discover his Targaryen lineage. Even if Bran tells him, who is going to believe that Bran can see the past and take his word that Jon is Rhaegar and Lyanna's son? No one. So obviously there has to be more to this plot than meets the eye. Jon's reveal was just a reveal to the viewer, not the characters. There must be something else that happens that solidifies his lineage to the rest of the characters rather than Bran just telling them. And even if the show brought on Howland Reed, the only other person that could technically prove Bran's vision, I feel like it may not be enough. We'll just have to wait and see what they choose to do for Season 7. The other major aspect of Jon's reveal that makes it important is the possibility that Jon is the prince that was promised. Melisandre has spoken about it a few times this season, but there has been little focus on it as a main plot point. However, in the final episode, we might have caught a glimpse of the most convincing hint to date regarding this matter. During the finale, one camera shot immediately stuck out to me regarding the prophecy. As Ned entered the room where Lyanna was in at the Tower of Joy, he places Sir Arthur Dayne's sword Dawn by the bed next to the bloody rags, and the camera seemed to focus on the sword for a second. On the sword, we can see the painted sun on the sword's pommel, and this seemed to be the subtle hint that Jon being the prince that was promised might be true. One prince that was promised prophecy from the book is that the prince will be born beneath a bleeding star. The shot of Dawn might have been intentionally placed there to provide a hint. If this was a subtle indication that he is the prince that was promised, I'm sure Season 7 will be filled with more clues and possibly the revelation itself. This will also be a topic I'm going to make a detailed video about during this break from the show, so make sure to check in for those updates. Finally, the last scenes of the episode were Cersei Lannister and Daenerys. As Jaime arrives back to a freshly landscaped King's Landing, he watches Cersei's coronation at the end of the episode. The key thing to note here is the potential dilemma this brings up for Jaime. He obviously knows Tommen is dead, and knows how conniving Cersei can be. With the complexity of his character, being honorable and everything, I'd say this development has set up their story to have a tragic ending. As Cersei has said before, they came into the world together. It would only be appropriate if they went out the same way. Lastly, the episode then ends with a shot of Daenerys and her various fleets heading towards Westeros. After 6 seasons of waiting for this moment, Daenerys finally sets her eyes on the Iron Throne, and with the Dothraki, the Unsullied, the Seven Sons, the Dornish, and Highgarden at her back, there is no doubt she'll be a force to be reckoned with in Season 7. They are likely heading to the Iron Islands to deal with Euron Greyjoy first, as agreed upon, but expect her to move on King's Landing as soon as that is dealt with, and maybe we'll catch a glimpse of her meeting with Jon. Who knows? Until then, we can only wait another year until Game of Thrones returns in 2017. Thank you for watching this video, and make sure to like it and share it with your friends. Also, make sure to subscribe to my channel for more Game of Thrones videos as well as other related content. Take care.